December 28th, 1894. 0530 hours. Saint-Léonard de Port-Maurice, Montreal. Arthur Sicard stood in his father's barn, breath visible in the frozen air, watching 4 exhausted horses struggle to pull a single plough through 3 feet of snow. The animals' flanks steamed, their hooves slipped on ice. Behind them, the pathway they'd cleared was already beginning to fill again. He was 19 years old, a farm boy, and he was watching the 19th century lose a fight it had been losing for thousands of winters. The snow had fallen for 36 hours straight. The roads, connecting Montreal to the outlying farms, had become impassable. Milk wagons sat abandoned. Mail couldn't move. The fire department's horses couldn't reach a barn fire in a Hunsick. The building burned to the ground while firefighters dug through drifts with their hands. Across the city, an estimated 10,000 men had been hired for emergency snow removal. They worked in shifts, shoveling, always shoveling. Sicard's father owned a modest farm on the island's eastern edge. Every winter was a siege, every storm a crisis. The young Arthur had grown up with the rhythm of it. Wake before dawn, dig out the barn doors, clear a path to the road, dig out the road itself, hope it didn't snow again before the milk run. He'd been doing this since he could lift a shovel. But this morning, something was different. He'd been reading. The new agricultural magazines from the United States featured photographs of grain threshers, machines that used rotating blades and forced air to separate wheat from chaff. The principle was simple. Spin something fast enough, create enough turbulence, and you could move massive quantities of material through a directed channel. Farmers had been doing it for decades. Arthur looked at the snow. Then at the thresher diagram he'd torn from the magazine. Then back at the snow. Why not? The neighbors thought he'd lost his mind. Between 1894 and 1925, Arthur Sicard spent 31 years building machines in his basement. Not continuously. He had to eat, had to work. He took a job as a farmhand, saved money, bought materials. Sheet metal, gears from broken equipment, a small gasoline engine salvaged from a failed automobile. His basement workshop became a laboratory of failure. The first prototype looked like a thresher that had been turned on its side and mounted to a cart. 2 wooden wheels, a rotating paddle mechanism inside a metal housing, a curved chute pointing upward. The theory was sound. Paddles would scoop snow into the housing. The rotation would create force. The force would eject the snow through the chute. The reality was chaos. The wooden paddles splintered on contact with packed snow. The housing clogged within seconds. The chute, poorly angled, blew snow directly back into Arthur's face. He'd spent 6 months building it. It cleared approximately 4 feet before breaking down completely. He rebuilt it. Prototype 2 used metal paddles, stronger housing, a reinforced chute. It worked for nearly 20 feet before the gears stripped under the load. Prototype 3 incorporated a 2-stage system, an auger to pull snow in, a separate impeller to throw it out. The auger twisted off its mounting after 1 minute of operation. Years passed. The work was slow. Arthur had no formal engineering training, no machine shop, no funding. He worked by candlelight after 14-hour farm days. His hands were permanently scarred from metal cuts. His back ached from hunching over workbenches built too low. His savings dwindled. The community of Saint-Léonard thought it was a waste. Arthur Sicard, that farm boy with his head full of nonsense, building toys in his basement while real men cleared snow with their backs. His father worried. His mother prayed. His brothers, more practical, had moved on to reliable employment. But every winter, Montreal drowned in snow, and every winter, 10,000 shovels proved inadequate. January 1925. Arthur Sicard was 50 years old. He'd spent 3 decades failing, 31 winters watching the same problem repeat. He'd gone through 14 major prototypes, lost count of the minor modifications, spent money he didn't have on materials he barely understood. The basement was a graveyard of twisted metal and broken dreams. But Prototype 15 was different. The machine stood 6 feet tall, mounted on a truck chassis he'd purchased third-hand. The front housed a massive auger mechanism, a rotating screw blade that pulled snow inward like a grain elevator pulling wheat. Behind the auger sat a 12-blade impeller powered by a separate drive system. The snow, once collected, was compressed and accelerated through a discharge chute that could rotate a full 360 degrees. The innovation was in the staging. Previous designs had tried to do everything at once, collect and throw in a single motion. They'd failed because snow isn't uniform. It's packed in some areas, loose in others. It contains ice, debris, hidden obstacles. A single-stage system couldn't handle the variation, but a 2-stage system could. The auger didn't need to throw the snow, it just needed to collect it, break it up, move it to the center. The impeller, spinning at high speed in a controlled housing, could then launch the material with consistent force. It was the same principle grain farmers had used for decades. Arthur had simply needed 31 years to see it. On January 17, 1925, he tested it on his father's farm. The machine started with a roar, black smoke from the modified truck engine, the smell of gasoline and hot metal. The auger began to turn. Arthur engaged the drive mechanism and pointed it at a 5-foot drift that had been sitting since December. The machine moved forward. The auger bit into the snow. There was a grinding sound, a moment of resistance, and then the snow began to move. Into the housing, through the compression chamber, up the chute, out into the air, in a perfect arc that landed 40 feet away. Arthur drove the machine down the entire length of his father's driveway. The pathway behind him was clear to the ground, black dirt visible for the first time in months. The drift that would have taken 2 men 4 hours to shovel had been cleared in 12 minutes. He stopped the engine, climbed down from the operator's seat. His hands were shaking. It worked. The city of Outremont didn't believe the letters. Arthur had written to municipal governments across Quebec, Montreal, Quebec City, Trois-Rivières. He explained the machine, offered demonstrations, promised efficiency that would revolutionize winter maintenance. Most didn't respond. Those that did were polite but skeptical. There were already snow removal contracts in place, established systems, thousands of employed workers. But Outremont, a small municipality on Montreal's western edge, agreed to watch. December 1925. The demonstration was scheduled for 2 p.m. on a residential street that hadn't been cleared in 3 days. The snow was nearly 4 feet deep, packed, heavy. The kind of accumulation that would require a full crew, working in shifts. Arthur arrived with his prototype mounted on the truck bed. Municipal officials stood at a distance, arms crossed. They'd seen novelties before, gimmicks that worked in ideal conditions but failed in real-world use. They expected disappointment. The machine started, the familiar roar, black smoke. The auger began its rotation. Arthur drove it forward at walking speed. The auger pulled the snow inward with steady aggression. The impeller launched it in a controlled stream that arced over a nearby fence and landed in an empty lot. The pathway behind the machine was clear, absolutely clear. No residue, no patches, just clean pavement. He cleared the entire block in 18 minutes. The officials said nothing. They walked to the cleared street, examined the pavement, looked at the machine, looked at each other. One of them finally spoke. "How much does it cost to operate?" Arthur did the math. Gasoline, maintenance, operator wages, compared to hiring 20 men with shovels working for 6 hours. The snow removal cost dropped by 60%. Outremont placed an order for 4 machines. The problem was production. Arthur was a farmhand with a basement workshop. He could build one machine over several months, but he couldn't manufacture at scale, couldn't manage orders, couldn't handle the business side of invention. He needed partners. He found them in a group of Montreal businessmen who recognized the potential. They formed Sicard Industries in 1927, established a proper factory, hired engineers to refine the design, implemented assembly line production. Arthur retained patents and creative control, but the operation was no longer his alone. The machines evolved. Early models were crude, loud, smoky, prone to mechanical failure, but each iteration improved. Quieter engines, more durable augers, better chute control. By 1930, Sicard snowblowers could clear a city block in under 15 minutes. They could operate continuously for hours. They could handle any depth of snow Quebec winters could produce. The market expanded beyond municipalities. Railways needed tracks cleared. Airports needed runways maintained. Industrial facilities needed loading areas accessible. The Canadian Pacific Railway ordered 30 machines in 1931. Montreal's Dorval Airport ordered 15. Orders came from Toronto, Ottawa, cities across Canada, where winter wasn't a season, it was an occupation. By 1935, Sicard Industries employed over 200 workers. The factory operated year-round, building machines for northern climates across North America. Arthur Sicard, the farm boy who'd spent 31 years failing in his basement, had created an industry. The 10,000 snow shovelers of Montreal found other work. Arthur Sicard died in 1946 at the age of 71. He lived to see his invention transform winter maintenance across the Northern Hemisphere. He saw cities that had been paralyzed by storms maintain operation through the worst weather. He saw airports remain open, railways stay clear, emergency services reach every neighborhood regardless of snowfall. The snowblower, refined, miniaturized, adapted for residential use, became standard equipment in northern homes. The two-stage principle Arthur spent decades developing became the industry standard. Modern machines are quieter, more efficient, more sophisticated. But the core concept remains unchanged. Collect with an auger, throw with an impeller, clear what shovels couldn't handle. The last time anyone hired 10,000 men to shovel Montreal was 1926. Today, the city deploys a fleet of automated snow removal equipment that can clear the entire urban core in a single night. The machines are descendants of Arthur's basement prototype, computer-controlled, GPS-equipped, capable of operating in coordination across multiple districts simultaneously. But the principle is the same. The innovation is the same. One man, 31 years, refusing to accept that snow was an unsolvable problem. December nights in Montreal still bring storms, 3 feet, 4 feet, sometimes more. The city keeps moving, roads stay clear. Emergency services respond. Life continues. Because somewhere in 1894, a 19-year-old farm boy looked at a thresher diagram and asked a simple question. Why not?